Stop whatever you were about to do, whatever move you were considering, whatever message you were drafting in your head, or whatever reach you were building toward, or whatever effort you were preparing to make in the direction of this person or this situation. Stop. Not because the effort was wrong, not because the impulse behind it was misguided, or the feeling driving it was not real, but because there is something happening right now that your movement would interrupt, something that has been set in motion without your involvement, and that requires your stillness, not your action, to arrive at its destination. Someone has decided to come looking for you, and the looking has already begun. I want to start with the decision itself, because it is not a new one. It did not happen this morning. It was not the product of a recent conversation or a sudden realization or any specific moment that could be identified as the turning point if someone asked. It has been building for a period of time that would surprise you if I named it, through seasons that looked, from your perspective, like quiet, like absence, like the particular stillness that settles between two people when the momentum of their connection has slowed to something that seems from the outside like it may have stopped. It did not stop. On their side of the stillness, something was accumulating, not visible to you, not expressed in any of the channels you were monitoring. Operating in the private interior of someone who was processing something at a pace that had nothing to do with your timeline and everything to do with what the processing actually required. The processing is complete, and what emerged from it is a decision, clean, specific, pointed directly at you with a clarity and a commitment that the ambiguous, half-present, 1 foot in quality of earlier phases did not contain. They decided to come looking. Let me describe what I am seeing, because the image is specific. Not a figure moving quickly, not the urgent energy of someone who has just realized something and is rushing to act before the moment passes. Something considerably more deliberate than that. A figure preparing with the specific, unhurried quality of someone who has been thinking about how to do something for long enough that the thinking is done and what remains is the doing, who has moved past the stage where the question is whether to move and arrived fully in the stage where the question is how, what form the moving should take, what the approach should look like, what it should communicate before a single word is spoken by virtue of how it is offered. They are giving thought to how to find you. Not because the logistics are complicated, because the finding carries significance, and they want the form of it to reflect the significance accurately, to not be casual when the thing being pursued is not casual, to match the weight of what they are bringing with the weight of how they bring it. That consideration is the final stage before the moving begins. I want to speak to why, because the title promises it, and the why is the piece that I think will land the deepest for those of you who have been carrying the question of this person without having clear sight of the answer. They came to understand something about what you are, about what the specific combination of your qualities produces in the particular context of their life, about what exists or existed or has the potential to exist between you that they have not been able to locate in any other arrangement or with any other person, despite whatever they may have attempted in that direction. The understanding arrived through absence. This is how certain understandings work. They cannot be arrived at through presence because presence keeps supplying the thing in question, and the continuous supply prevents the person from ever fully registering the thing's value. It is only when the supply stops, when the presence becomes absence and the thing is no longer continuously available, that the full weight of what was there becomes measurable. They measured it in your absence through the specific, accumulating, eventually undeniable evidence of days and interactions and situations in which what you brought to them was sought and not found elsewhere. Through the comparison that absence forces, through the particular emptiness that has the shape of a specific person rather than the general shape of simply being lonely. The emptiness has your shape and they are coming to fill it. I want to be specific about what they discovered in that absence, because vague descriptions of being missed do not serve you. You deserve the actual content. They discovered that you are irreplaceable in a function they did not know they needed until you were the one performing it. Not a romantic function necessarily, though for some of you it is exactly that. A more fundamental one, the specific function of being someone in whose presence another person can be entirely themselves, without the social editing, without the managed version, without the continuous calibration of what is appropriate to express and what must remain contained. With you, something opens. Some door in them that tends to stay closed in most contexts, that requires a particular quality of safety and attention and genuine interest to opens in your presence. And the things that come out when that door opens, the thoughts and the humor and the fears and the genuine assessments of things rather than the diplomatic versions, those things feel more real and more alive and more like the actual person speaking than what comes out in most other interactions. They lost access to that opening when they lost access to you, and the losing of it has been a specific daily accumulating reminder of what you actually were in their life. And the things that come out when that door opens, the thoughts and the humor and the fears and the genuine assessments of things rather than the diplomatic versions, those things feel more real and more alive and more like the actual person speaking than what comes out in most other interactions. They lost access to that opening when they lost access to you, and the losing of it has been a specific daily accumulating reminder of what you actually were in their life. I want to describe what that daily reminder actually looks like in practice, because I think it is the piece of this reading that is most likely to produce genuine recognition in you if you have been wondering what has been happening on their side of the silence. It does not arrive in dramatic moments. It arrives in the small ones, in a conversation with someone else that goes reasonably well and ends with a faint, barely articulable awareness that something was slightly off register. In a moment of wanting to say something to someone and realizing in the saying of it that the specific someone who would receive it best is not the person in front of them. In an experience, a film or a piece of music or a situation or a view from a window that produces a response in them and the instinct to share that response with you specifically and the awareness immediately following that instinct, that sharing it with you, is not currently available. Each of these moments is small, but small moments accumulated across enough days produce something that is not small, an understanding, a specific, undeniable, finally unavoidable understanding of what presence actually was and what its absence actually means, and what, given the choice and the opportunity and the courage, they would do differently. Not what they thought. You were in the comfortable way of people who take things for granted. What you actually were. Let me speak to something specific about the decision that I think is important for how you receive this person when they arrive. This is not impulsive. I want to make that very clear because the significance of what I am describing could be confused with the kind of passionate, emotionally driven reaching that produces a grand gesture in a moment of feeling and then requires revision in the sober light of what follows. What I am reading has been stress tested, not by you, by time, by the specific, patient, completely unsympathetic pressure of continued absence, by the fact that whatever made their decision possible did not arrive immediately after the connection between you changed, but rather after a long enough period that the initial emotional charge of the loss had settled and what remained was still the same conclusion. That is the signature of something durable. Feelings that survive the settling of their initial charge and continue pointing in the same direction are the kind that produce actions worth taking seriously. Because the actions are not being driven by a surge that will subside. They are being driven by something that has demonstrated it does not subside. What they feel about you does not subside. What they feel about you does not subside. I want to describe what it looks like to live inside a feeling that has survived its own testing, because it has a specific texture that distinguishes it from feelings that have not yet been tested. It is quieter, not because the intensity has diminished, but because the person carrying it has made peace with the carrying of it, has stopped fighting against the feeling, stopped trying to argue it into something more convenient, stopped hoping that the next day or the next week will bring the relief of finding that it has finally become manageable. It has not become manageable, and they have accepted that. The acceptance is what makes the decision possible, because fighting a feeling requires your full attention and produces no forward motion. Accepting a feeling releases the attention that was going into the fighting and makes that attention available for the deciding and the moving and the doing. They stopped fighting. The energy that was going into the fight is now going into the coming. And the coming has a quality, a settled, unhurried, completely committed quality that reflects exactly that reallocation. There is something I need to say directly to those of you who have been trying to figure out what to do, who have been running through possible approaches and considering different moves and wondering whether to reach out or stay quiet or make some strategic adjustment to your own positioning in relation to this person or this situation. Stop trying to figure out what to do, not permanently, not in the sense of abandoning your own agency, in the specific sense of this particular moment with this particular person, because the thing you are trying to figure out how to engineer is already in progress. The movement you are trying to produce through your own action is already happening through their own. Every move you make right now has the potential to intercept something that is on its way to you. Not because your energy is disruptive or because your reach would be unwelcome in some ultimate sense, but because when someone is mid-process, mid-preparation, mid-building toward the specific form of something, an interruption from the object of the process can redirect the process in ways that produce a less complete version of what was developing. Let it complete. Your stillness right now is not passivity. It is the specific active choice of someone who understands the mechanics of what is happening and is choosing not to get in the way of it. That is sophisticated, and it is what this situation needs from you. Tell me in the comments if you feel the pull, the specific urge to do something, to reach, to make a move, to stop being still because the stillness feels too much like surrender. Tell me if you are sitting in exactly the tension I am describing. I want to know how many of you are navigating this right now. Let me speak to what the looking actually looks like, because there is a particular quality to how someone comes looking for you when the coming has been preceded by a long, considered, non-impulsive process. It arrives with a clarity that previous interactions may not have had. The specific clarity of someone who is no longer uncertain about whether they are doing the right thing, who has moved through every version of the doubt and arrived on the other side of it at the same place each time, who comes not with the slightly tentative energy of someone who is still in the middle of figuring out what they want, but with the settled quality of someone who has finished that figuring and is now simply enacting the conclusion. You will feel this clarity, not only in what they say, but in how they say it, in the quality of their presence, in the difference between an energy that is reaching and an energy that is arriving. Reaching has a quality of uncertainty in it. Arriving has a quality of completion, of someone who has traveled a distance and is now at the destination they were traveling toward. You are the destination, and when they arrive, the fact of the arrival itself will communicate something that the words, however carefully chosen, cannot fully carry. That they came in the specific form and with the specific intention, and after the specific process that produced this decision, they came, I want to speak to who you are in this moment, because the reading is not only about what is coming toward you, it is also about what you are doing while it approaches. You have been building whatever form that has taken in your specific life, a project, a practice, a relationship with yourself that is more honest and more developed than it was at an earlier point, a body of work, an interior life that has been tended rather than neglected, a version of yourself that is more fully realized and less dependent on external validation than the version that existed before this period of stillness. That building is the most important thing you have done. Not for the reading, not to produce a particular impression or to be a more attractive version of yourself for the person who is coming for yourself. Because it is yours and it is real and it represents the genuine development of who you are in ways that have nothing to do with anyone else's arrival. But it is also the thing they are coming toward, not the version of you from before, not the version that existed when the connection between you was at whatever earlier point it was at, the version that has been developing in the stillness, the version that resulted from you being fully in your own life rather than oriented toward theirs. That version is going to be a revelation to them. They think they know what they are looking for. They do not yet know how much more there is to find. As we close, I want to leave you with one clear thing. Your job between now and when this person finds you is to continue exactly what you have been doing, not to slow down, not to speed up, not to adjust in any direction based on the knowledge of what is coming, simply to continue to keep building what you are building, to keep tending what you are tending, to keep being who you have been becoming in all the time this person has been processing their decision. Because when they arrive and they encounter what you have become in the interval, the meeting is going to be different from what either of you imagines right now. You are going to surprise them, not with a performance with the simple, undeniable reality of someone who used the time well, who became more rather than less, who moved forward rather than marking time, who filled the stillness with genuine development rather than waiting. You are going to surprise them, not with a performance, with the simple, undeniable reality of someone who used the time well, who became more rather than less, who moved forward rather than marking time, who filled the stillness with genuine development rather than waiting. I want to describe what that surprise actually looks like in the moment they find you. There will be a moment of recalibration. They arrive with a picture of who they are looking for, a picture built from the version of you they knew before the distance and the silence, complete in its way, accurate to that version, but not updated, not accounting for what this period has produced. And then they encounter the actual you, the current version. And something in their expression shifts slightly as they register the gap between the picture they carried and the person standing in front of them. The gap is not a disappointment. It is an expansion. The person they were looking for was already more than enough to justify the decision to come. The person they actually find has grown beyond that already enough in ways that produce something specific in them. A deepening of the decision, a satisfaction that the choice they made was even more correct than they knew when they made it. A quality of being met at a level they were not fully prepared for, but that feels unmistakably like the level they have always been wanting to be met at. That moment is yours. You are already building toward it without knowing that is what you are doing. That is who they are looking for. And they are already on their way. Do not interrupt the journey. Be there when it ends.